All right, welcome back, everyone. Before I introduce our next speaker, I have a fun announcement. So tonight, as a reminder, we have a fun event. We're going to have an evening at the museum tonight, the Museum of the American Indian, the Smithsonian National Museum, by the way. Shuttle service is going to be provided from the hotel. It's going to depart at 6:15 today, and return buses and shuttles are going to be looping continuously throughout the evening. So please remember to join this fun evening tonight. All right, our next speaker today is Julien Ducloy, and I'll have him introduce himself. Come on up.
Thank you. Thank you, May. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. So my name is Julien Ducloy. I am with Marsh. So Marsh is the largest insurance broker in the world. And because we are about 75,000 people, we have a risk advisory division and of about like 1,000 consultants worldwide. I lead the cyber advisory for Marsh Canada. What makes us a little bit different, we're not only security consultant, but we also help our clients getting cyber insurance. We work with them and with the insurance market to understand what the markets want to see and how to prepare best our client for risk transfer. So the past few years, as you all know, I've seen a very important increase in the ransomware risk, and this increase affected dramatically insurance markets, and the insurance market reacted by extended requirements and more scrutiny. Being at Marsh, we have had a very good position to see that and understand where everyone is coming from here, and so that's I want to explain what they look for today, but also how we got there here. Let's say, let's move to the first slide. So first, a brief comeback on the threat landscape and how and since 2018 more or less what has happened. Then we're going to look at a little bit some details about cyber insurance. Because we want to understand how the cyber risk and the threat landscape impacts the market. And then, based on the impact on the market, how the insurers responded and what they look for. What you see on the screen is the ransomware volume. Each bar is 1 quarter from 2018 to 2022. So you see there is a very steep, some say exponential increase, starting in mid-2019 all the way up to Q4 2020. And stays on, so basically for 1 full year, mid-2020 to mid-2021, very high level of ransomware frequency, then goes down in 2022, still high. And if you listen to Kevin Mandia, not Kevin Mandia on this one, but the intelligence panel, you know that the ransomware activity in 2022 was pretty low as compared to 2021, but also as compared as what we see now in 2023. So we can expect that this curve is going to go back up. What's behind? So I'm not sure you have seen that kind of data yet. Each bar is 1 year. Each color is a different ransomware variant. So from 2016 to 2019, you see you have more or less the main variants, 225. And then 2020, 2021, 10 to 20 different variants. So we see that the cybercrime is much more efficient. And there are many reasons behind, but they figure out how to make it work they specialized. They applied the Ford model to cyber crime, and it works very well. The ransomware as a service, you can buy anything at any stage in a ransomware attack on the darknet. So that's how they got there, but also they learned how to get leverage to get ransom paid. And that's what we see after. This chart is the ransom payments. Demand. The demand is the dark blue bar for each year, and the red, like brown, bar is the payment. And we are talking about the top 1% of the demand here. It's not all ransom requests. If you see in 2019, the average demand on the top 1% is about $1 million. Went all the way up in 2021 to 10 million. So it's a tenfold. Pretty impressive. But what's more impressive is the payment went from 20,000 in the same time up to 5 million. So it's a 300-fold. And organizations pay only if they have to, like everyone. So it means the cyber attackers have been so much more efficient. In 2022, it goes down, but again, like the data on 2023 shows that it's certainly going up from now. But what is more interesting in 2022 is the gap between the demand and the payment is very, very thin. So it means that now attackers, when they ask for something, they get it. So also another indication that they're very good at what they're doing. Now, if we look at how often we pay, so from 2017 to 2022, we see that the average payment, the percentage of payment is going down. From like 2 times out of 3 at the beginning to about 1 time out of 3 organizations pay. I don't know if 2022 is also like a good indicator, like, and is it really going down or not? But we believe that if there is a ransomware attack, it's not like there are less ransomware attack in 2022, but I think the payment data is still independent from that, so it should be reliable. That's also what we see. Our organizations are getting better at fighting ransomware attacks, and so attackers get less leverage on that. Now let's look at cyber insurance. I may ask you for how many of you you have a cyber insurance in your organization? Do you know? So it's about a third to half of the room. And have you been involved in answering a cyber insurance questionnaire? You can raise your hand as well, like about the same. Yeah. So you're gonna maybe understand what I'm talking about then after when we deal with the questions. What I want to address here is what is the link between cyber risk and cyber insurance. So first, like standard insurance policy. What is covered? So there are 2 things we look at. First, there is a cyber incident. So is the incident covered, yes or no? And second point is, what is covered? What kind of consequences are covered? And assuming it's above the deductible and below the limit. Here is the definition of what kind of incident is covered. So if you read, there's theft, alteration, destruction of electronic data, unauthorized use or access to systems, denial of unauthorized access, and transmission of malicious code from your organization to another one. What is also covered is if your supplier, whether it's an IT supplier or not, face a ransomware attack, you have consequences and loss of business and so financial impact. If your cyber insurance would have covered the ransomware if it had happened to you, then you have coverage for it. It's a little bit of a stretch. But any one of your supplier has an attack, you have consequences, you're covered. Also, regardless of the incident, any kind of privacy breach impacts are covered. So maybe for folks that are non-initiated with insurance in general, you cannot see that, but it's actually a very large cover. like almost everything. What is not covered is cyber war, act of war, like not cyber war, but anything that is considered as an act of war, and demonstrating this is an act of war is very complicated, the attribution, etc. So it is the insurer to prove it. Or if the owner of the organization is doing some cyber incident, is not covered, but basically all the rest is covered. And now if we look at what is covered in terms of impact, we have everything that is first party. Forensics, breach coach, notification, monitoring, business interruption, the ransom, assuming it's not under sanctions, and also everything about restoration. That's the first party. Third party, so any impact on individuals due to privacy breach or like trade secret for organization is covered. Again, this is a very large coverage. The reason is the cyber insurance is quite new, and it has been exactly designed to cover cyber risk. And at the beginning, the insurer was struggling to sell it. Nobody believed in it. So they basically covered everything. Now you struggle to buy it. In 15 years, cyber insurance went from a product you can sell to a product you can buy. It's like unseen in the insurance industry. But so the conclusion is when there is a cyber risk increase worldwide, then the insurance market see that 100% in their portfolio. An example of one ransomware attack. So this is a quantify risk scenarios. On the left-hand side, you have the storyline, what happened. It's hypothetical, but it could be a real incident. Then you have all the consequences, like adding up to 70 million in that case. And then you see in green and in red what is covered by standard insurance contract, what is not covered. Basically, everything is in green, so 69 million out of 70 million, assuming you have about up to 70 million coverage, everything is covered. And we do that for a lot of different scenarios, and it's always similar. We're talking about 90% covered. So now let's look at how the insurance industry felt the impact of the ransomware increase. That's the world seen from the cyber insurance portfolio of one insurer, CFC, in 2019. The ransom demands over 250K. Now look at the slide when I changed to 2020. So you went from like 10 requests, 10 ransom demands for 10 of your clients to like nearly 30. So that's completely different. When you're in charge of the business, you freak out. Like you know you won't be able to pay. And so if we look at more globally on the insurance market, this is the loss ratio chart. For each year, you have two bars. The dark blue bar are the premiums. The premium is what the insurer pay to the insurer to get the coverage. And the red is what insurers pay in terms of claims. So the claim amount. So if you want an insurance portfolio to be profitable, you need the blue to be above the red. Very simple. So up to 2019, everything's okay. 2019, you see the dark blue, the red is very close to the dark blue. It's not very sustainable like this. So you see they reacted in 2020, the dark blue bar is much higher. So they increased the rate to prevent like additional increase. But what they didn't foresee coming is like the claims were multiplied by 6 in 1 year. And so they had a gap in 2020 that is 2 times their revenue. So the loss is 2 times their revenue. And so they had to react because one more year like this and they stop the activity. So from there, they have 2 ways to get it better. First is to increase the premiums. Kind of obvious. The second one is to better select their risks. So it means looking at the security program of their clients and potentially refusing to renew clients that have not enough cyber controls. What they did is they play on both ends. If we look at the ratio, just a complement, so the loss ratio is, if it's 100% a loss ratio, it means they pay more claims than they receive premium. So you see in 2020, 9 insurers in Canada got a ratio, 7 out of 9 got a ratio that is red, so above 100%, so they lose money on their cyber insurance portfolio. The only 2 that are in black is because they are not the first layer of insurance, so they're not impacted as much by the increase. And even in 2021, with the number we have seen, they're mostly still in the red. It's only in 2022 that gets better. So let's look at how they increased the premium. It was pretty steep. Everyone was screaming because not that many people knew the background of that. So this is the percentage of increase when you renew your cyber insurance. In December 2021, it's between 120 and 130%. And it has been like that for 2 years in a row at least. But after we see, and that chart was used to say, hey, we're getting in a better place. It's only about 20% increase 1 year after in December 2022. But still, like a normal year, you say, what? 20% increase in my cyber insurance? And here is like so low. So one way they can use to get back to profitability. The other one are the controls, and that's what we're going to look at. So what happened in mid-2020 when they already burned all the premiums of the year and they know the year is not finished, they say, okay, we need to react. So before, at Marsh, we had one questionnaire that we use for all the markets. So you answer the questionnaire, we send out to insurers, the broker send it, we receive the answer, the offers, fine. Like at the end of 2020, each insurer added a ransomware supplemental. So now you have one questionnaire and then a supplemental times 10. So you basically spend like an entire week answering security questionnaires. It was a nightmare. And obviously some of the answers or the questions were the same from supplemental questionnaire to questionnaire. So the brokerage of cyber brokerage of Marsh came to us, the advisory, and say, hey guys, we have a big problem here. We don't know how to deal with that. So we took all the questionnaires and looked at it to start to understand what insurers were looking for. And we came up with a framework that is called Marsh 12 Controls. And that was initiated in Canada and that is now used worldwide. This framework is interesting to go for cyber insurance, but it's very interesting because the insurers have access to all breach investigation reports because they pay the claim. So they know which control works or not. So that's a very important point. And they see that for tens or hundreds or thousands of claims worldwide. So we're very interested in knowing their point of view and why they request. So we also link, that's not here, but all the requests on the kill chain, et cetera, to understand where they come from. And so let's look at the process. So we look at all the questionnaires and identify the 12 controls. Those controls are MFA, EDR, backups, PAM, email and web filtering, vulnerability management, incident response, security awareness, hardening, security monitoring, end-of-life management, and third-party risk management. Nothing crazy, but like some of the security fundamentals, if not all. So now I'm going to deep dive on the controls to explain exactly what they request, insurers request for small and medium-sized businesses, and also comment on the larger organization. But I want to say, we talked with number of insurers, some of the key players, but not the entire market. The answers varies from insurer to insurer, but also potentially from underwriters to underwriter. And if you don't have a control, then there might be another control that is compensating for it. The insurers, they look at the big picture, but also their decision can vary from the time when you ask for an insurance, because maybe they are at capacity, or they have less appetite for this industry now, etc. So I just say it's not because you don't need to have all the controls listed to be cyber insurable, and it's not because you have all that you necessarily have the best term depending on the time, etc. The baseline we propose is on the higher end of the requirements, because we believe we want to bring you to the best possible number of offers and terms for the insurance market, but we also believe that some of the control, even they have less attention now from the insurers. This is where we're going, and these controls are absolutely key for your security program. First one, MFA. This is the king control. Without MFA, no cyber insurance. This is true like 99.9% of the time. They want MFA on remote access, on webmail, on any web-facing systems, even like a website just like that is a static website that is outside of the corporate network and there's no MFA on it, generally no insurance. So like just to explain how far they go with that. They want MFA on admin access, generally domain admin access, but this requirement is a little less for small and medium-sized businesses. And so what I mean by small, medium-sized businesses, so it depends on insurers, but generally is like 50 to 100 million of revenue, up to 250 to 500 million of revenue. And after, so larger organization, 500 million to 1 billion revenue. When I talk about that, this is what I mean. So this is the king control. Now, they don't look yet at the strength of the factor, and they just want to know there is MFA. But obviously, in future years, they certainly will look at the strength of the factor, as I was mentioned by Kevin Mandia yesterday, as a key element. Second control, EDR. EDR is the new antivirus. They want it everywhere on the endpoints, like more than 90%. Generally, they like a name for the EDR, something they already heard of. For mobile phones and tablets, so far there's not really a requirement. And for larger organizations, they will look at anti-tampering features on the EDR. They might ask questions about that. Backups. Obviously, they want to see there is a backup strategy. And they want to see that backups are somewhat protected. They don't want the attackers to be able to, they get into the network, they go to the backup, destroy it, then have the maximum leverage for the ransom. But they don't necessarily go all the way to immutability, but they want some segmentation on the backups. In terms of restoration test, they want at least partial restoration, which means like a part of the environment, a few servers, maybe the infrastructure, a part of the infrastructure restored. If you say, last year we had to get 3 files from the backups and it worked, that's not gonna cut it. They want like some more testing. What we recommend is definitely full restoration test, and that's what they would expect from larger organization. When you do only partial restoration, you don't uncover issues that you would have when you do a full restoration. So the RTO that is like 24 hours or 48 hours is gonna turn into weeks. In ransomware attacks generally, and if you listen to the school ransomware attack yesterday, it took them like a month and a half to get back to full business recovery. And that's what we see, maybe 2, very best case, 2 to 6 weeks, even with like correct backups. Just time check. Privileged account management. That's for small and medium-sized businesses. That's the control that we see as the most lacking today. There is a lack of awareness on how critical that is. And you see insurers' requirements are, they don't necessarily want to see a PAM solution. I mean, if there are some PAM solution vendors in the room, I'm sorry to say that, but we do recommend to have a PAM solution, but if your privileged account management is not well done without a PAM solution, generally the PAM solution is not going to solve that anyway. What they believe here, and we agree with that, is you can do very good privileged account management without a PAM solution, but you need some good hygiene and discipline. What I want to see mostly, MFA on admin access, at least domain admin accounts, and potentially any kind of domain admin. What is not here is also they would like to see no admin access for a regular user. It could seem like obvious, but a lot of organizations don't have that yet for their SMBs. And then they don't want to see too many domain admins, too many privileged service accounts with domain admin, and especially not with interactive logon, because if you try to explain how you put MFA on a privileged service account that has interactive logon, that's going to be a hard time in the intro discussion. And they want also to see separate privilege, separate credentials, and so you see these requirements in the middle are kind of interchangeable. They want to see some of that, but the actual questionnaire has maybe 30 or 40 different questions related to privileged account management. So they want to see that some things are in place, and they want to see a plan, because all SMBs are currently improving that part. For larger organization, PAM solution is preferred, but is not necessarily a strong requirement either. They're going to look at all the detailed answers. Web and email filtering. So that's kind of very standard right now. And generally, solutions used by organizations are covering all this. And generally, what we see is like security practitioner, when they answer the questionnaire, they're not necessarily aware of all the functions of their security technology. So we have to help them to figure out that some things are actually active when they didn't know. The thing for larger organizations that they don't necessarily, that's not here that they would ask is if when assets are connected remotely, so not connected to corporate network, is there still web filtering? So that's a requirement that insurance markets would have for larger organizations, something like Zscaler, for example. Vulnerability management. So in terms of type of vulnerability patch, insurers want to see from small and medium-sized businesses that vulnerabilities 910 are patched within either 30 days or 72 hours as a target patching time frame. They don't have requirements now for what is lower, and most of them want to see some annual, some vulnerability scanning, either annual or monthly. If we look at large organization, the requirement is for all organization is 72 hours target patching for CVSS 910 and monthly scanning. Pen test is not a requirement for small and medium-sized businesses, but as the organization grows in size, is going to be more or less required and taken into account as a compensating control for potentially other things. Incident response. So you might be disappointed by this. I am. So only just about half of the insurer request an incident response plan. and they have no requirements for the exercise. If you listen to Kevin Mandia yesterday, they say it suggested it is key to have executives in the room to do a tabletop exercise. This is our belief as well, and we differ from insurance market here, and that's why our baseline is to do both. And the reason is not only because of the comfort it brings when you get to a real incident that everyone has been through a fake one and kind of know where they're going to, but it is also because after you put the executive in front of a tabletop exercise, they understand what it is, and there are a lot more incentives to actually improve the security program and invest in cybersecurity. So it's not only this control, but it's also what it brings to the organization in general. Security awareness, that's pretty simple. They want mandatory training for the entire organization and phishing tests. And that's same for small and large organization. After, obviously, you're very large, you have specific security training depending on roles, etc. But this is the minimum for all. Hardening. Again, referring to the keynote speech yesterday, we believe hardening is a key control, and for the insurer, they want hardening on anything web-facing. That's same as MFA, because before providing insurance, they would use BitSight or Security Scorecard or their own scanning tools. And if they find critical vulnerabilities on the perimeter of the organization, it's depending on the insurer, it's either a no-go, come back next year, or you have, please fix it, tell us, and we're gonna wait 60 days and maybe we will provide terms, or something like this. So that's very important. But when it's inside the organization, they don't pay too much attention to that. When we believe it's key to have, obviously, secure imaging, but even to use NIST and CIS benchmarks. And during the keynote speech yesterday, we had a pen test starting at the same time, more or less. And before, it was like a larger size organization, more on the higher end of SMB's bracket. Before the end of the keynote speech, they had compromised the domain because of secure configuration. The domain controller had some wrong configuration that allowed access, that allowed the domain to be taken over. So it was like half an hour of testing. So imagine an attacker getting into it, it's gonna have the same results as any user, basically. So we strongly believe this is important, but if you have to prioritize for cyber insurance, then you can put that on the lower end. Logging and monitoring, so this one is a complicated one because of all the potential options. Because insurers want to see EDR everywhere, so they're kind of okay for SMBs to have a monitoring that is linked to the EDR. And often they would request to have a SIEM as well, and with monitoring during business hours, etc. For larger organizations, they want to see a 24/7 SOC. That comes with the SIEM, etc. So that's where they stand right now. And if you have an MDR, okay, and an XDR, so if you have a solution that is combining the EDR with a larger monitoring, then it's kind of in the middle with a full SOC between just the EDR monitoring and the full SOC. You're gonna score more points as well on that end. End-of-life systems. So for all insurers, this is bad. But they accept that it's something that has to exist sometimes, so they want a story. They want a story, so why do you have end-of-life systems? What is your plan to get it fixed? And how do you mitigate the risk in the meantime? Segmentation, enhanced monitoring, anything you can do to contain these systems and potential leverage for attackers. And as your size grows, then you need to be very sharp and straight on your story if you have questions on it. Know exactly the number of systems and type of systems and the plan for each and the reason for each. And the last control, vendor risk management. For SMBs, it's a lower requirement. But for large organization, they want to know there is a process in place. And this is a control that was actually not on the first version of the 12 controls, but it got much more attention after Kaseya and SolarWinds, etc. So we're getting there. It's still quite important control, and it will be more important in the future, obviously, because we are just outsourcing everything. So third-party risk management is going to be more and more important. Now, if you want to use our questionnaire to know where you stand and have more very detailed target requirements, we can do that for free. So how to sharpen your security program, how to prioritize actions just for your cyber insurance market posture. Thank you for listening, and I open the floor for questions. There will be a copy available, as well as the recording. Mm-hmm.
And I've seen some cases where there's been litigation because of these kinds of gaps. How is the insurance market looking at any kind of real-time or some kind of monitoring of my 12 controls? And if so, what's the plan for that?
So they would monitor potentially your attack surface on the web, like on internet-facing systems. So the B-site and security scorecard reports would be monitored monthly, something like this. So, and they might reach out to say, hey, you have this vulnerability, please fix as soon as possible. For the rest of the controls, it's an annual refresh with often new questions or modified questions. In the meantime, there is not necessarily any check. They don't have the resources to do that. I mean, that would be very time intensive. Also, they know that when you answer yes or no to a question, the reality is not yes or no. So you have the ability to comment if there is a significant gap. But so if you have for example, you say you have EDR, in that question they ask, there's a question where you can put what is the percentage of coverage, but other questionnaire they won't ask that when they assume that at least, I would say, the majority of your endpoints are covered. So there is a gray area. The thing is, in case of a claim, the organization shouldn't be in a position where we can clearly demonstrate that the risk was misrepresented. Also, when you see the claims they paid, it means they're paying. They're not trying to avoid paying, or find the little thing, because you can find a lot of problems in the questionnaire versus the security program. They don't go for that. They want to provide the coverage, and after they select the risk differently. Yes.
You were describing what is covered, not covered, et cetera. You described one of them as being that, and then you went through your different security postures, the 10, right? I'm new to this thing, so help me understand. None of the security postures, cyber postures, describe the type of data that you have within your system. So I guess I'm confused why you wouldn't analyze one customer or evaluate one customer, say like American Express, that has a bunch of sensitive information differently than a different business that has different data within, and how would the security posture change? So do you evaluate this market value of the type of data?
Yeah, sure. And insurance market value that. There is, at the beginning of the questions, like in our questionnaire, you have questions about what kind of data you have and how many records. And based on that, they would look at controls differently. If we talk about retail and healthcare, they want to see controls around privacy and protection of data and encryption of backups. So they will be careful with that, or also incident response. And if you're a manufacturer and your production depends on systems, they want to see more emphasis on business continuity planning, disaster recovery planning, etc. So they do, and there even are some industries that they don't want to take, because they are notably below in terms of security, or this is a risk they have no appetite for in terms of type of risk. Yes?
Thank you. As much as it's good to know what are the key security controls determining the organization's insurability, are there any data around, let's say your organization is insurable. How do I know whether I'm doing better compared to other organizations?
So we have that. So in our tool, you have two versions. You have a spreadsheet if you want to keep the data for you and limited, and we have also an online version where we have about 15,000 organizations answering 300 questions. So we can compare with your peers where you stand. And also indicate, we also use that for, we compare with our claims database, and we look at the controls that predict less incident or more incidents, and we can elaborate on that as well for each organization. Sorry?
Is there a policy, like a coverage difference for businesses making less than $50 million?
Yeah, like the security requirements are lower. And then the variation is much, like from insurer to insurer, there's a lot more variation. But we have seen organizations with like 1 million revenue ticking all the boxes. Because of the business they're in. So if you need protection and you don't have it, the insurers know that, and they won't provide coverage if you're too much behind in your security posture.
Yeah, so for controls 1 through 12 that you had,
Yeah.
what if the controls are being met by a third party? How do you evaluate the risk in that for like a managed provider, or is that looked at the same as far as a risk tolerance for the insured?
So if the insurers is asking if you control your third party,
The insured is meeting those controls via a third party, like the third
yes, that works. That works.
Is it the same risk that you would see, or is it improved, or is it worse?
It depends on the third party. So, but they would take if a third party is doing the control for you, is managing the controls for you, generally stated somewhere. There is like a comment or like they want to know about the organization, so and it's better to disclose it, but then you answer the same way as if it was your organization. But you own the risk as well. I mean, you cannot hide behind the third party after, and this is your risk. Karen?
For incident response planning, do you have any best practices that you recommend to clients? For example, like before you're going to renew, this would be a great time to update or test it. I'm thinking about 60% of the clients that
Yeah. Yes, 60% of insurers, like on this panel, wanted to see the plan, and for a large organization is 100%. So what they want to see is like the plan is updated every year because they are changing the risk on SIM every year. Also, they want that organization connect with bridge coach and incident response vendors, so they know them, they know each other before a breach. And they want like the training every year, the tabletop on various topics. It could be more technical, more management. So it's recommended to be active on this as well as on the disaster recovery plan. It makes a huge difference. Like it's a soft control, but it's so important that it is on the list. So you mean in the supply chain, you have some technology and you integrate some components from a third party? That would be like the insurance covering that would be, it's called technology error and omission. And I'm not too familiar with that, but I would expect for your own risk that obviously you look at like the security program of the third party and any certification or, this is not something that is taken into account. In the questionnaire, though, you have some questions about like all the known vulnerabilities and if you had Orion from SolarWinds, and so they want to know about everything that has been breached or like big cyber incident in the past 5 years. They want to know where you stand for that. Last question? Okay. Yeah.
So assuming I adhere to all of the 12 controls, what would likely be a range of the premium per year? And then if I wanted to reduce that premium, if I did extra things, what percentage could I lower my premium by? I know that's a general question.
Yeah, that's very hard to answer that question. I suggest I take it offline, and I'm happy to answer this question to anyone offline as well. Thank you very much.